I recruited a kid one time. This was 20 years ago. I went and watched him play. He struck out 4 times. I came back and my head coach said, how did he play? I said, Coach, he struggled, man. He struck out 4 times. He said, well, what do you think? I said, we're going to sign him. He goes, what? I said, hey, he struck 4 times and did it really well.
Welcome back to another episode of the 5-Tool Baseball Podcast. We're up to 18 episodes. I am Dustin McComas, Senior Editor of 5-Tool Baseball, joined once again by Scouting Director Drew Bishop. And we mentioned the championship theme with guests will continue this week. No really bad jokes for me today before we get to the guest. We will have McLennan head coach Mitch Thompson joining the podcast. McLennan fresh off of the national championship in junior college baseball. A program that I got to see up close, play an exhibition game against Texas recently. Saw some of their guys at DBU for that Texas-New Mexico All-Star weekend that we covered at 5-Tool. And I was not surprised because I know that the caliber of program McLennan is and the talent they get and things like that. But, you know, just seeing that junior college program matched up against Texas, who I'm very confident is a preseason top 5 team that's kind of a great shot at going to the College World Series. You couldn't really tell the difference oftentimes between the physicality, the stuff on the mound, the velocity, and things like that. I mean, junior college baseball in this region, in this state, is a destination for talented baseball players, and really looking forward to talking to Mitch and picking his brain because he's got quite the resume as a baseball guy that's been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, Coach Thompson was responsible for building several of the best teams that ever played in the Big 12 at Baylor. You know, I know we played them in our national championship year in 2005, and they beat us, I think, the first 3 times, maybe 4 times that we played them, and they were just loaded. And they had a long stretch of guys that played in the big leagues, guys that were all Americans at the college level. So he definitely knows how to pick the right guys and then from there develop them. And we've seen that pattern continue in his time at McLennan. And, you know, from not just the players side, but he's had a bunch of coaches come and then go on to, you know, quote unquote, bigger jobs. But, you know, a couple of my high school teammates coached for him. And then Skip Johnson's son, Tyler Johnson's on staff currently. And, you know, he's a star in the making, just a great coach. You know, we've known, like we talked about last episode, Tyler, since he was almost in diapers. And, you know, the big decision for him was, are you going to go front office or are you going to be a coach? And, you know, as time went on, he, you know, went the coaching route and has done a great job with their catchers and does a lot in recruiting. He's just like his dad. He is out all the time. And, you know, so credit to Coach Thompson for his eye for not just players, but coaches. You know, it's just a theme of development. It's just in his blood. And, you know, he's put together an incredible program that just continues to put out player after player.
Yeah, it's no accident. I mean, this guy knows the recipe for success in baseball, both in terms of eye for talent, but also too, like what kind of players from the mental side, from the work ethic side, to recruit, to build a roster with, to build a team with, you know, and that's something that can be more challenging at the junior college level because there is so much turnover. Like who are you signing? Who are you bringing in? Like who you got to make sure that those guys have the right type of mindset, which can be a little bit more challenging at the junior college level because you are getting a different collection of guys. You're getting D1 transfers. You're getting high school players. You're getting guys that might want to jump to the pros after just 1 year and things like that. So it's no accident that everywhere this guy's been, talented, good baseball, it has been a part of that process as well. And that goes to the coaching side also. And just a guy I'm really excited to talk to. So let's not waste any more time. Here's our interview with McLennan head coach, Mitch Thompson. Keeping with the championship theme this week on the 5-Tool Baseball Podcast, excited to have another great coaching guest join us. McLennan head coach Mitch Thompson, fresh off of a national championship season at McLennan. We had Kyle Cheesebro on earlier this week, national champions for Division I baseball. Now we've got the junior college national champions on here. Mitch, first off, How's the fall going for you guys? I had an opportunity to see some of your guys at DBU at the Texas New Mexico All-Star Weekend event. Was down at Dish Falk for that scrimmage against the University of Texas. It looks like you guys don't rebuild, you reload. I mean, you've got a lot of potential impact players in there. It looks like you guys are going to have another great season on the horizon.
Well, I appreciate it. We're excited about it. Obviously, we just finished our fall. This last Sunday was our last fall game, and we came out of it pretty healthy. We decided not to play a fall World Series because we don't want to take a chance at anybody getting hurt now at this time. But no, we had a great fall, and the guys worked real hard, and we like our club. We think that we're going to be competitive again this year, and we just got to continue to get better between now and then. And then as the season gets started, get better from the first day till the last day.
Yeah, Coach, one of the things that's a lot different for you versus some of the Division I programs is you have so much roster turnover year to year. So like Dustin mentioned, your roster is able to reload instead of rebuilding. But can you talk about a little bit how you incorporate some team concepts when you have an ever-changing roster like you do?
Yeah, I think I think coaching at this level is difficult. I'll be honest with you. It's to be ultra competitive every year. For me, it's way harder than it is at the Division I level, just from the fact that you have such turnover, just like you talk about.
Right.
I mean, every year we're going to lose, probably 50% or more of our team. And so when you start the new year, half your team is freshmen incoming. They don't even know if they belong yet. They have no idea how to practice at the college level. They have no idea of what's coming ahead of them. And your other half of your team is sophomores or transfer guys who are coming in who are now looking to get out. And where do I go here? What's, coach, I've got to find my place. And so trying to build that all together and to get culture, the culture is never set. It's something that we have to redo every year. And that's the hard part. I remember at the Division I level, you'd have incoming players come in, and you'd have seniors that go up and put their arm around them and go, "Hey man, you better get your butt in line. I'm going to put you or hey man, it's going to be okay. Keep your head up and just battle through it. You're going to be fine." We don't have that. So it's a difficult level with the 50% or more turnover every year.
What do you wish more guys understood about that when they show up? We've talked some about not just the jump in competition, but the jump in life and everything. I mean, just kind of getting used to not being a high school guy. If you could tell, parents or kids in the recruiting process, hey, try to understand this before you arrive, because it can really help your transition be a much smoother one.
Well, one of the things that's kind of funny is that, all of these kids' parents get smarter every year. These kids are off at college. How that happens, that these kids go off to college and their parents get smarter, but that's the way that works. And at least in the kids' eyes, kids now get to school and go, "Hey, you know what, mom and dad, they're not kind of crazy as I thought they were. They know what they're talking about. They can really help me." And one of the things we have to remember as the coaches is that these are kids this is their first time. This is my 32nd year of college coaching. So it's real easy for me to know how a fall is supposed to work and how this thing's supposed to go. This is this kid's first year or his second year of fall baseball. Their experience levels are so minimum. So what we have to do is we really got to teach. We've got to teach. I just think that kids need to understand that it's not going to be just rolling the balls out for sure. Mm-hmm. It's about winning and losing. Part of the thing that's difficult sometimes is these kids play so many games where the winning and the losing is not the focus. The focus is showcasing their talent, showcasing their abilities. When you get here, yeah, you want to showcase your talents and abilities too, but it is about winning. We want to win. And that's the way it'll be for the rest of your career until your career comes over if you play college baseball or professional baseball. So it's going to be much more commitment. Practices will be longer. They'll be harder. The guy next to you is going to be better than he was before. There's going to be competition. You're going to have to compete, and you'll have to compete the rest of your career.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people understand the at least to an extent, the 11.7 and how the scholarship situation works in Division I. Can you talk a little bit for people about how it works at the junior college level?
Yeah, it's different for us. We get 24 scholarship slots. And so we have to take the money that our school gives us, and we could divide that up amongst our 24 players. If I give a guy $1 of scholarship money, he's supposed to be one of my scholarship guys. And so, the slots are the precious commodity for us. On our team, we'll have a team of about 38 to 40 guys on a yearly basis. That's our team. So you can see that there's 24 guys that'll be on some scholarship money, and there's 16 guys that are not on money, that are recruited walk-ons, that are guys that we've invited to be in our program and have to pay for it all. What we have to get across to those kids too then is that those recruited walk-ons, those 16 guys, those 40% of our ball club, those guys are difference makers. And, I've always believed that if I bring a kid in and he pays for his first year and he ends up being on the field for me and playing and helping us win and doing good things, I'm putting that guy on money next year.
Right.
Helping him. So it's the scholarship slots. We have tuition fees, room, books, and board, just like Division I does. But we only have 24 slots, and we have to take the money that our school gives us and divide it up amongst 24 players.
And is there a maximum on that? I know 24 slots, but is there a certain number? When you add up the.
Yeah. I think here in the state of Texas, we're dealing with 18 tuition scholarships.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then
gotcha.
We can cover the board. But that makes it much more difficult. It really does. We've got to make our decisions on who we want to offer and who we don't, and are we saving some scholarship money back, and how's this going to work for the summertime or whatever.
Yeah, talking about that a little bit. What at a junior college program, what does your recruiting calendar look like versus, I know a lot of times you guys aren't out there recruiting 8th and 9th graders like people at the Division I are doing at this point, but what does a typical recruiting calendar look like for you guys?
It never stops. Typically it never stops. We're going. We don't see as much in the fall as sometimes we'd like, because we're so busy trying to build our team and trying to coach our team. But we're out all summer long. We're hosting tournament games here at our field. We're running around seeing games all summer long. Coach Tyler Johnson and myself went to Jupiter this year. We're running around Jupiter, seeing as many players in as many different places as we can. It never stops. Throughout the entire spring, we're out and about, running and going. I would say this, that sometimes the junior college calendar, I think, goes a little longer. Division I guys will spend the majority of their money during the early signing period. For us, we're gonna continue to watch those guys that continue to develop next spring and kind of jump on the scene, and we'll have scholarship money available for them then when that happens.
Right. How would you describe generally the recruiting philosophy that you guys take? It's such a unique position because you're recruiting guys that have aspirations of pro ball or whatever's next, like they want to play, but they're always kind of looking ahead, which is not uncommon for every baseball player, but because of the nature of junior college baseball and the draft eligibility and things like that. So how would you describe what you guys look for, both in terms of the skill and talent, but also the mental side as well, because that can be something that's a little bit more difficult to nail down. And like you said at the beginning, you guys have got to establish that culture in the fall, a couple of bad apples here or there, and that can be a really tough thing to do and kind of derail things.
Yeah, no, we, we're working on it the entire time, obviously, in recruiting, but the things that we're always looking for is just very simply this. I tell our coaches, if we wouldn't recruit this guy to a Division I school, this is not the guy that we want to recruit here. We're looking for players that have a high level, a high ceiling, guys who I want every kid that comes through here to want to play in the big leagues. You don't want to play in the big leagues, I'll be honest with you, I really don't want you to come here. And that doesn't stupid enough to think that every one of our kids is going to play in the big leagues. But I want guys who have high aspirations. I don't want to have to be kicking a kid, getting a kid to, hey man, we got to turn this up a little bit. I want a kid who's passing through. I want a guy who's using this as a springboard to get to the next place, and that he knows he's going places. So we're looking for kids who have really a high aspiration for where they want to end up, who have that motor that love to play. It's really easy for us to go see kids play and to see kids just jump off the field at you if you watch them and they play hard. I'm looking for makeup. I need grinders. I need guys who can eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and go play a doubleheader, man. We've got to have toughness there. We've got to have kids who love the game. We're looking for three things from every player that comes here and plays here. I want a kid who's got a talent level and has a passion and is a baseball playing fool, man. He loves it. He eats it, drinks it, sleeps it. He can't wait to get on the baseball field. A guy with talent who has an opportunity to play professional baseball or high-level Division I ball. That's number one. Number two is I want a kid who understands the value of an education, that understands that even though he wants to play in the big leagues, he's not crazy enough to think that it's just automatically going to happen, and he better prepare for life when baseball's over, whether that's when he's 25 or when he's 35. And so we want kids who understand the value of an education. And that's really, for me, is something it may be a little bit selfish for me, because smart kids are easier to work with than kids who struggle. Disciplined kids are easier to work with than undisciplined kids. So I want guys who understand that value of an education are going to go and represent us well on this class, on campus, because every professor on this campus is going to make a determination about me as a coach based upon the kids that we have in our program and how they handle themselves in the class. But then third, I'm just looking for really good kids. I want good kids from a good family, and it matters to us. It matters to us, if you're a kid whose biggest goal in life is to see how drunk you can get, to see how much dope you can smoke, to see how many women you can take advantage of, I don't want you here. And I'll tell kids that all the time, please don't come, because you and I aren't going to get along and I'm going to win. And so what we end up getting a lot of kids with a big time passion for the game, kids who go to class, make their grades, handle themselves well, are a lot of fun to be around, and guys that I'm proud to associate with and proud to say are my friends when I'm done with this thing, when they're moving on to the next place. I don't want to be their friend now. I want to be their coach, and I want to help guide them and help them become all they can be. And at the end, when they leave, I want to be their friend, So those are the type of people we're looking for. I'm looking for really difference maker kids. I want kids who are uncommon. I don't want guys who want to just flow with the river, man. I want to be the guy that's going to be a little different. It's going to swim a little faster than everybody else. It's going to give a little more effort. And we've been able to attract those guys. And once you get them, other guys like that want to come and be a part of you. And that's how we've kind of built the program. And that's how it sustains itself, where year after year, coaches around the high schools, coaches in select baseball, they've sent players here that have continued to develop. The kids have had positive experiences. The word of mouth spreads, and birds of a feather like to flock together. So that's how we've been fortunate enough to continue to, like you say, reload on a yearly basis.
Well, yeah. And like you said, looking at the roster, I mean, you have kids from 5 different states outside of Texas. You've got one from Canada. So obviously word is spread across the country that McLennan's a great place to be, and obviously you spent a lot of time at Baylor and built a couple of the best teams the Big 12 has ever seen. And, so it's obvious you have a good eye for talent. Talent wins out in a lot of cases, but when you and Tyler Johnson and your other guys that you've had on staff are out watching kids play, you talk about wanting to see them play hard, right? That keeps being a theme between a lot of coaches that we've seen. And the more I'm out and see it, you just don't see it a whole lot anymore. There's a lot, guys stick out a lot more by playing hard these days than they did 15, 20 years ago. So, when you're looking at that, what kind of things does playing hard mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's probably the issue is a lot of times these kids don't understand what playing hard means. Playing hard means playing the game no matter what the score, no matter what the temperature, no matter what. I mean, if I hit a ground ball to shortstop, I'm going to run a hard 90 and I'm going to run it with the best of my ability. I'm a 17-year-old kid and I'm trying to get a college scholarship. I'm going to give great effort. If I hit a pop up to the outfield, I'm sprinting to second base, man, because if somebody drops the ball, I'm going to take their pants down. And I'm going to be standing up on second or standing on third. The one time it happens. Instead, a lot of times what we get is we get 17-year-old kids who play like they're playing their 3,000th big league game. Okay. And, the big leaguers, when you hit a ground ball to shortstop, yeah, they're out and they're playing 162 games a year and you're out. So, yeah, sometimes they don't run hard every step all the way. But if you want to be a difference maker, if you want to stand out on the field like a beacon shining light, be that guy that's first on the field, first off the field. You communicate. I like to stand around the dugouts. I'm always in looking through the chain link fence at these guys from 2 feet away and hearing what's being said in the dugout and watching if a kid's got poopy pants, man, when he strikes out. Is he turned into an absolute jerk over there in the dugout? Or is he a big boy about it? Is he going to handle himself? Is he talking to his teammates about what the pitcher's throwing and how are you competing? Playing hard means that you're competing to win in my book, and that you're going to play the game no matter what. And that is the difference. Never before in the history of the game have we as college coaches or professional scouts coached or scouted kids who have played more baseball than these kids now. These kids have played more baseball than at any time. More than you played, Drew, when you came out. More than I played when I came out. No question they've played more baseball. However, sometimes I think these kids know less about how to play the game and less about the game of baseball. I always remember hearing Augie talk about the game, play the game. It's a difference maker at every level. I'm constantly on our guys. Play the game, do what's right, give the effort, and the game will reward you back. Playing hard to me sometimes means this. It means that my team's ahead by 10 runs and I'm sliding into home plate like it's a 0-0 game, man. I'm trying to score that run. Playing hard might mean I'm behind by 10 runs, but I'm not going to sit here with poopy pants and quit and roll over. I'm still competing. I'm going to do what's right. Whether everybody on my team does what's wrong, I'm going to do what's right. So it's giving that a little extra effort. It's just playing the game with passion like you love it. And that kind of shows out. And like I just said, I want guys who love the game, man. I want guys who have a passion to play it for a long time. If you don't have that passion, then I'm gonna have to kick you to get you to go and do what I want you to do, because we have high aspirations. We want to accomplish. We want to win another national championship. We've won one, and it's really fun. I want to go do it again. Yeah. So we got to have some grinders, some baseball guys who love it.
Yeah, as Drew alluded to, I mean, just looking at y'all's roster, and this has been a consistent theme for a while, it stretches beyond Texas and even it stretches beyond the United States. And that's something I noticed at the All-Star weekend was just there are guys from the Netherlands, Italy, Canada, Japan. Like, what's allowed junior college baseball in Texas to turn into a destination? I mean, it is a destination for talented guys that want to go to the next level, whether that's professionally, whether that's high level D1, whatever it is. What do you think's allowed that to happen?
Well, I think I'll be honest with you. I think our conference, the North Texas Conference, is the junior college. It's the SEC of junior college baseball. And what do I mean by that? Well, four different schools in our conference have won national championships. In our region, to get to Grand Junction, you have the North Conference and the West Conference. 7 different schools in those 2 conferences have won the national championship. If you win our region, you've got an unbelievable team. You've got a team that's got a chance to win the whole shooting match. And so, Texas junior college baseball is something that it's easy to sell, and people know we're going to have good weather. We're going to have coaches who care. We're going to have programs and facilities that are pretty doggone good. And then these kids are able to use it and to get to the next place. There's a lot of talent out here. And so, yeah, we've recruited kids. My shortstop from a couple of years ago was George Khalil. He's from Melbourne, Australia. And, we had to trust some of our connections and watch some video on George. We took a chance at him, and, he came and played for us for 2 years, and he just finished up his last 3 years playing and being the starting shortstop at the University of South Carolina. So we'll go anywhere to get a guy. There's no question about that. And, I'm fortunate enough in McLennan that we don't have to go too far. I mean, I've got a Canadian this year. I'm going to sign a Canadian here, next year. I've had an Australian, but for the most part, we can stay right here in the state of Texas, and then we can pick and choose some Division I transfers, some kids from around the country, and get some other guys that have interest in coming in here and developing their talents right here. So that's kind of how we've gone about it.
When you talk about the transfers and the kids coming back from the Division I, is there a difference? I mean, not necessarily in the way you coach them, but do you find there's a way or a different way sometimes that you have to handle them or help them readjust expectations, or just kind of, get back to the basics, and that they obviously have talent, right? So is there a difference in how you approach things with a kid coming back from a Division I versus an incoming freshman that's coming out of high school?
Yeah, I think the kids coming back from Division I have a little bit of, sometimes they have a little bit of a sour taste based upon what their experience was like at the Division I that they're leaving. And some of that comes from, being recruited probably when you're 15 years old and being told how great 15, 16, 17. And then you get to college and you go, gosh, I'm not as great as I thought. And coach is coaching me really hard now. He's not calling me and telling me how great I am every day. He's telling me I got to get better. And, the kids leave for different reasons. Sometimes they leave because they want to play pro baseball and they go, I don't want to wait 2 more years before I'm draft eligible. Sometimes they leave, they've had a bad experience at the school. Sometimes they leave the schools, cut their scholarships, and they're moving on. So, I tell everybody that wants to come in here, hey, man, I need you to be all in here. Okay. I don't care that you came from, Auburn, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma State. Nobody cares, man. We want you to become a part of us. And if you'll become a part of us and do that really quickly, then you'll have another place to go to from here. And that's, that's just what we sell. Guys have got to become part of us, and that there's no sitting around patting your chest. I'm this great stud who came from wherever Division I school. Nobody cares, man. Because what we've ended up having is we've had a bunch of kids transfer from the Division I school. They come in here and they go, Coach, if I didn't have to leave, I wouldn't leave. I'd stay right here at McLennan. I love it. I'm getting better as a player. I'm getting attention from scouts. I love my teammates. I love the culture. I've been to the big time school, but I'm happier personally right here at McLennan, little old McLennan, than I was at the big place. And what that ends up being is that kids have finally realized that the important thing about making your college career fun and enjoyable, it's not about the stadium. It's not about the name across the front of your chest.
Right.
It's about the people that you're going to be around. Do you respect them? Do they respect you? Are you working hard together for a common goal? Does the coach care about me as a person? And when you get that, you go, hey, man, I got exactly what I want. And I'd be perfectly happy at little old McLennan, So the transfer thing is an interesting thing. It's something it's actually a bad thing for college baseball, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And now the Division I transfer thing has turned absolutely. I can't believe that 25 years ago we changed the transfer rule because it was broken. All right. And now we've given everybody a free transfer. If I'm a Division I mid-major school right now, the worst thing that can happen to me is I have a freshman who goes out and plays great. Okay. And
yeah.
Everybody's going to be in on him. And they won't be recruiting him with the coach calling him, but this player who knows that player is going to be going through it's unbelievable, the Pandora's box that we've opened up now. And, I just think that these kids and the schools have got to live with their decisions and live with their commitments, and they ought to stick with them. I did it for 23 years of Division I baseball, And that's not a problem, man. We weren't running kids in and out of that program based upon making mistakes. We made good decisions. You have to make good decisions. And some of these decisions are made at the Division I level when kids are too young. They don't continue to get better. And it's just, sometimes they're made off of video. You know, you see a guy on video and you get all ooh and ah on a video and you're pulling the trigger on a guy. You know, I think the best way that recruiting is done is to go watch a kid play 4 or 5 games, you know, watch him struggle, see how he handles. If you still want him and he struggles, then good. You know, I recruited a kid one time, this was 20 years ago. I went and watched him play. He struck out 4 times. I came back and my head coach said, how did he play? I said, Coach, he struggled, man. He struck out 4 times. He said, well, what do you think? I said, we're going to sign him. He goes, what? I said, hey, he struck 4 times and did it really well. And, you know, as a freshman, and he led our team in home runs. He had 10 home runs as a freshman. So it was the right deal, you know, but you don't know that if you haven't seen a kid play multiple times. You know, if you're only going to pull the trigger one time and this kid's best ball game he ever played, you can make a lot of mistakes recruiting wise. I think that's sometimes everybody's in such a rush right now. The kids are in a rush, the colleges are in a rush, and it's just not a healthy environment now for people trusting each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talk about, you know, Dustin and I have talked about fit being so important, you know, and that's one of the things that it always, it's baffling that kids will make, you know, what to that point is probably the biggest decision in their life without even being able to legally be on campus a lot of times,
right.
You know, and, you know, I think that what gets lost is, you know, you see the names, and, you know, we've had coaches talk about the social media glory and all that lasts about, you know, 48 hours and then it's, you know, back to business. But, you know, I think the one thing that gets lost in translation is people don't focus on the development enough. You know, who's developing you? You know, are you going to a place because of the cool stuff or the actual on-field baseball stuff? And it's, you know, it's clear that you guys have a good path for development. A lot of that starts with your staff. I mean, obviously you as a head coach have developed a lot of good coaches in the last several years. I mean, I know for personal experience, I grew up with Roger Kieschnick. I grew up with James Leverton. I've known Tyler since he was a little kid. And you do a great job of getting good people that are about all the same things that you're talking about. So it's not a fake thing, what you've developed there. And, you know, it's obvious watching your teams that there's a lot of development that goes on, both, you know, on the field with their skills, physically. You know, your team looks like a Division I or a low A team physically. And
well,
so talk a little bit about, you know, what your development beliefs are, because it's clear that it's happening for you guys.
Well, I think the big part of it is just like I said, a kid's got to have passion. He's got to have a vision for where he's going. You know, I can have a vision for where a kid's going to be 2 years from now, but if he doesn't believe that exact same thing, it doesn't matter what my vision is. You know, I think we as coaches, our job is to take a piece of clay and to just sand off the edge just a little bit. If we're having to build the entire mold, we're recruiting the wrong kids. We've got to take kids who have ability, who have a passion, and we sand off little edges. We add a little here, we add a little there, and we help guys go. But you're exactly right. You know, the thing that's made our program special is the assistant coaches that we've been able to have. You know, I've had Chris Berry, I've had Zach Dillon, I've had Roger Kieschnick and James Leverton, I've had Tyler Johnson now. And those guys are winners, man. Those guys are great baseball guys who bring a lot of knowledge. Peter Stark's now my new pitching coach. Peter brings a lot to the table, been here with us for 3 years. I've got Anthony Miller and PJ Carmichael here with me right now, guys who are out there every day, 5 o'clock in the morning weights, getting after it, throwing the BP, communicating. You know, those guys bring so much. And really, the thing is about building relationships. You've got to build relationships. And I think for any kid that's being recruited, the biggest thing that the biggest question that he needs to answer is, do I like the coaches that I'm going to play for? Can I trust them? And will I like the players that I'm going to play with? Are they of like mind to me? Okay. And there's no way of figuring that out without getting on campus and paying attention. There's no way of figuring that out without really leaning on your other baseball contacts throughout the deal. You've got to take the time to get to know these guys, because, you know, I can sell ice to an Eskimo. I promise you. You know, I can tell a kid everything he wants to hear on the phone, but if he doesn't know me and what I'm about and know my passions, then he really has no idea what life's going to be like playing here. So I've got to get to know them. They've got to get to know me. That takes time. And that's, you know, we're not in a big hurry. You know, I mean, we've got a signing period coming up here right now. We've got 4 guys that we're going to sign, and we're just not in a hurry. We're going to get good players. We're going to have good kids who want to come here and play here. And as we see our players that are on the field, where we need to go from here, that's how we'll continue to recruit. But, you know, college baseball is a great game, but it's really a positive experience when you're around really good people. And, you know, this thing's about relationships. It just is. It's about relationships with the players. It's for us as coaches. If I'm not into, if I don't take, I should get a really warm feeling in my heart when I see one of my kids continue to develop, continue to grow, and I've had an impact on his life. And he may not even realize it until 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line. And then he knows and goes, you know, I've had guys call me up over and over and over, Coach, I just want to say thank you. You know, you made such a difference. Well, and I'm not the only guy. There's lots of guys across the country that are doing the exact same thing. But that's the beauty of this thing. And that's why we're all in the game.
Well, Mitch, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here. I think that's a really good place to end. And you're a baseball guy through and through. And I know the relationships you've built over the year and the reputation you have and your program has is really top notch. And just, you know, all the baseball you've seen, both at the D1 level at Baylor, Mississippi State. I mean, you were a scout for a year, had some guys picked. You must have been picking some winners. I believe you had a couple pros coming out of that draft class as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time. It's been a great conversation. I think players and families and other coaches and baseball people too can learn a lot from this conversation. But thanks so much for taking the time to jump on board with us. And I think Junction, I think you guys got a good shot. You know, I've seen you a couple times, but you've seen your team way more than I have. But man, you've got some guys, especially up the middle. Looks like a really, really good club this year.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. We're real excited about what we've built, what we have going. I'm excited about the kids that are in our program, and yeah, I like our chances too. But I'll tell you this: it's a dogfight, man, and this is really competitive. And you know, for kids out there, they need to come see our level of play. They need to come to the Bosque River Ballpark and watch us play a conference game and look at the talent on both teams out there, watching guys get after it. I think that it would really be eye-opening to them. Get up next to the dugout and see the physicality of the hitters coming out of the dugout that are getting ready to go hit. And, you know, it sends a real clear message. Hey, man, yeah, this is the next level, and we've got to keep going. And, you know, for my kids, they've got to find that next level as well. You know, that's the whole deal. The next level, it's not for everybody. That's why they call it the next level. So if I'm going to get there, I've got to go earn it. And so that's where we're at. We're in between process. We take some, we get them better, we send them on to the next guy. So appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate what 5 Tool and you guys are all about. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. Thanks again to McLennan head coach Mitch Thompson for joining the 5 Tool Baseball podcast. National champion head coach Mitch Thompson, as we continued our championship theme week with our coaching guests here on the podcast. Some great stuff from Mitch. Man, we've been so fortunate with these coaches so far that have been willing to jump on board and cover an array of topics with us. Just a lot of really impactful stuff, and not surprising, you know, knowing what I know about Mitch and people that have been around him, and his baseball resume is just, it's incredible to look at, just all the time he spent as a coach, even mixed in 1 year as an area scout. And I think they took 5 guys from his area that year, that's a lot, you know? So Drew, what are a couple of things that stuck with you from that conversation with Mitch Thompson?
You know, I think big picture, I think some of the stuff that stood out to me the most is that, you know, he's created just, you know, everywhere he's been, a culture of development. and getting guys better. But it's not just the talent that he's looking for. He goes through a list throughout the episode of things that he looks for, and seems pretty hard set in his ways on it. And they're the right things. They're all the same things that we're hearing from coaches at other winning programs across the country. And it just becomes real obvious why his program has competed at such a high level and finally got to the top and got over the hump. But, like we talked about, I could see it happening again. He's just building a monster there. And, the reason is the development and picking the right kids and being about the right things for his program.
Yeah. And, we always talk about you don't know who's watching you. There might always be somebody watching. And with junior college coaches, chances are that's true, because like the recruiting calendar, as he said, is different. Even kind of referred to it as it's a little bit too long, but they were down in Jupiter watching guys. Like there were coaches around at 5-tool events late in October when the D1 calendar kind of shuts down. Those guys are still on the road. And I'm telling you what, and he made a point to this, like you want to go see the talent level and things like that, come watch us play. He ain't lying. Because I saw that team, just stack up against the University of Texas in a scrimmage or exhibition game. You couldn't really tell that much of a difference in terms of the physicality. Every single arm that McLennan put on the mound was thrown over 90. Chances are they had a pretty good breaking ball. At least they could throw multiple pitches. They're guys with pro aspirations, major D1 college aspirations. I think their shortstop they put in there could play about anywhere. Center fielder was a solid player. Their catcher is ripping off a 1.9 pop time behind the plate. Like these guys are talented. They're physical, and it's really good baseball. And I think for anybody that kind of has this, kind of puts a negative, stigma attached with junior college baseball, you're wrong. And as Mitch said, like especially this region, we're looking down the list we alluded to. They got a guy from Canada. The center fielder, I think, is from Chicago. They got these guys from different states. They had a shortstop from Australia recently. They went to South Carolina. Like this region is really, really good for that level of baseball. And also, too, I love that he made, they're not trying to be, something that they aren't. Like they want this to be a springboard for you as a player. They know you can only spend so much time there. They hope that you want to be a pro. And he said he will only take guys that want to be professional baseball players, like that want to use this as a springboard to get to the next level, whether that's a high level D1, whether that's professionally, whatever it is. And, it was fun to hear him talk about, you could hear the passion too for the development, like you mentioned, but just the type of talent and the physicality they have at that level is really, really good.
Yeah. Well, you talked about it. If you don't want to play Major League Baseball, you have no business going there. And I agree with that, just because if you don't want to strive to be at a level like that, you're not going to want those long bus rides and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in between games that he talked about. I think we learned that a lot of times at Texas when we would have a kid that came to us from a junior college. It was always great to have those guys in our locker room because they appreciated things. They hadn't had all the cool, fun stuff, quote unquote, that some of the guys in junior college don't get to experience. But you know what? That doesn't mean anything about when it comes to development and on the baseball field. And he puts a high emphasis on getting good kids that have an emphasis on education, because reality is that even if you do play big league baseball, you're probably not going to make enough money to never work again. Right. There's a very small percentage of guys that get there and stay there. And there's an even smaller percentage of guys that make the kind of money to where that you and your family never have to think about money again. Right. And if you're not spending the time to at least put yourself in a good position to get an education, you're wasting your time. And it just kind of goes back to the way you do things across the board. Like a lot of times nobody typically loves school. I mean, I know there's some guys here and there that are interested by some topics every now and then, but more often than not, you're doing it to get to the next spot. Right. And it's a lot of times it's not the last thing that you're going to do every day. right? A lot of these guys are here to play baseball, but you got to do it or you're going to limit your opportunities to get to the next spot, no matter what that is.
Yeah, it's a great point. I didn't really consider that, but like, when junior college guys enter a program like a Texas or a South Carolina or an Arkansas or a Texas Tech or a Arizona State or whatever it is, like it's a different perspective. And in some ways that experience at the junior college level, I know we both love the quote about, I need a guy that can eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, go play a doubleheader. Like that's kind of what pro ball is like at the lower levels too. Now organizations are doing a much better job about investing into, the living situation and the food and things like that, but still like long bus rides, the pay's not very good. Like that can be a pretty good preview of what professional baseball might look like in some ways at the lower levels. But and he took great pride, and as he should take great pride in just the development element too, but also just what kind of players leave his program, because it's a representation of him. And now he said that he spoke about the relationships and things like that. And I can tell you that seeing all the guys that go from McLennan to whether it's the pro level or big time programs or whatever, they're not going those places if they're not doing it the right way, because, coaches talk and you can develop a reputation, things like that. And I know when Mitch Thompson picks up the phone and calls these coaches and things like that, they can take that to the bank just because of what they've done there in development and doing it the right way and things like that. But it's a great conversation, and I think people can learn a lot from it just about the game. But also too, every single coach we have on here talks about playing hard and what it looks like and how much it matters. And like it's not just something these guys are saying. It's not just something that we're saying. Like it sticks out and it matters, because you're going to go play more baseball than you've ever played before at a level you've never played at it before. He mentioned like these guys arrive and they look to the left and to the right, and the guys beside them are way better than the guys beside them were at the high school level and things like that. And it just goes to show you, like, when these guys are watching guys, he mentioned he wants to be around the dugout to see how you handle things. That sort of stuff matters to them a lot, and it can be a way to separate yourselves on a recruiting list, because these guys don't lack talented options at the junior college level. Mississippi State, Texas, whatever it is, they're going to find talent. But does that talent fit? And that's what Mitch also alluded to, in addition to those other coaches we've talked to.
Yeah, and I think one thing that he said that I don't think enough people pay attention to in the recruiting process when it comes to talking to coaches and the guys that, Kyle Cheeseborough talked about the other day about finding a position coach that you fit with, is the fact that he's going to be your coach now and hopefully your friend later. So, I think one of the things that comes across with Coach Thompson always is that he's brutally honest. And a lot of times that comes along with hearing things that you don't necessarily want to hear. I would imagine that anyone who's been through some adversity can think back to things that people told them that they didn't want to hear. And ultimately it's what helped them get better and realize that they got to do things a different way, or just continue to, push through. And if you don't have someone that's a truth teller in your corner, a lot of times you can get down the road before you realize there's a problem. Yeah. And I doubt being in his program, you're going to get too far without hearing that the way you're doing things, if they're not right, is the wrong way.
And you only have so much time as a player, especially when if you're starting at McLennan, like, clock's ticking, man. Like, you only get so many opportunities to play the game at that level. You only get so many years of eligibility before you've either got to be good enough to be a pro, or you better have that education taken care of, because you're about to enter the business world and figure things out from there. So great conversation with Mitch Thompson. Really appreciate him coming on board, and appreciate his program. I know I see those guys a lot at our events, in addition to so many other junior colleges around this region. And it's such an awesome region. Players in the state of Texas are fortunate that it's not just the Division I level. I mean, the junior college baseball in this region is really, really good. Like he said, like, if you get out of that region and go to Junction, you're probably one of the odds-on favorites to win the College World Series for the junior college level, because that's just how good the talent level and the coaching and the development. I mean, it's just turned to such a destination for players around the country and even worldwide too, that come down to play, like you said, in a little old McLennan. They've got a guy from Canada, Chicago, an Australian was playing shortstop from them. It's just really cool to see how much of a destination junior college baseball has turned into.
No doubt. I mean, there's, like we said, there's talent everywhere in the state. There's a different path for everyone, and there's different reasons for kids to go Division I or go play junior college ball. And you got to do your homework and find out what makes the most sense for you. You know, he talked about making sure that you get in and look around and see what it's about, because a lot of times it's not what you envision it. And, you know, I think he talked about the importance of liking and trusting the coaches that you're going to be around, and liking and trusting the players that you're going to be around. Because in my experience, if you have a bunch of guys with like-minded goals, those teams move in the same direction together, right? And if you have a team full of guys that care about different things, it's a little bit harder to get those guys on the same page and in the same boat, moving in the same direction. You know, so, you know, do your homework, you know, a lot of times, not just on the coaches and the program itself and the school, but the other guys in the recruiting class. You know, are you gonna like playing with that guy? Is he gonna be up in the cages after 10 o'clock at night with you, or is he gonna be out doing something that probably isn't helping his or your development or your team's goals in any way? You know, so I think that gets lost in translation a lot. When people don't take the time to really do a deep dive on what they're getting into.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, this everybody moving along in the same direction with that same goal. And you know, a team that did that very well was the Atlanta Braves. Were you surprised that they were able to close out the Astros in Houston in Game 6? I mean, that Jorge Soler homer. Oh man, I hate it from my friends that are Houston fans, that the immediate thing was like they had the Pujols clip ready, like just to go to right away. And you know, to be fair, that's one of the first things I thought of as well. But you know, an entertaining World Series, and I was a little surprised that Atlanta was able to close that thing out in Houston in Game 6. But you know, Max Fried was awesome, and you know, just that, I think they're going to be an example we will look back at. And I've already read some columns and some coverage and things like that. Like a bunch of like-minded guys, like look who they went and added at the trade deadline. You know, your Jock Petersons, a guy that just won a World Series with the Dodgers, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall. Like they just added a bunch of like good players that want to win. And it just, the way it energized that clubhouse, even though they lost Ronald Acuna, they still thought that they were good enough to go win. And, you know, I just love front offices that go take a chance, that are buyers, that want to go for it, because that doesn't happen. And I think it's become too easy in baseball to say, okay, we got to sell off. We got to, you know, save some money here. We got to do this or that, get under the luxury tax and kind of look towards the future. Well, the Braves like, no, man, we can make a run at this. And, a fun World Series to watch, and a fun team to watch. Both those teams really fun to watch as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why they're champions, is because when the whole outside world is talking about, oh, you know, they lost the momentum, they're, you know, I mean, including ourselves, talking about the problems and the momentum for the Astros going back to Houston, you know, they definitely didn't share that sentiment, and it showed in their play. And that's ultimately why they're champions. They believe in themselves, and I'm sure they were probably laughing internally. And, you know, a lot of times inside the locker room, they don't hear the noise. The good teams don't hear the noise. They just keep doing what they do and go back to their foundations. And, you know, and love watching guys like Ron Washington get a World Series ring. You know, obviously he's a guy that's had his issues and gone through some adversity, but, you know, you can see the love that people across baseball have for that guy. And, you know, he's obviously been a great mentor for so many young players in Atlanta. And, you know, it's fun to see, you know, stuff like that in our game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ron Washington, definitely a beloved guy in baseball. We won't talk about college football this weekend. Let's hope we can talk about it next week when we do some podcasts, and maybe some good things happen there that are worth talking about. Otherwise we don't need to bring it up. But one last one before we wrap this thing up. If you're a coach would you put a guy in the lineup that wore a pearl necklace?
A pearl necklace?
Yeah, like Jock Peterson.
He better be hitting.
I know you're kind of a stickler on that sort of stuff, on the flair, let's call it. Like if there's a guy, he's like, man, like I'm feeling it, I'm rocking this thing, would you be okay putting him in the lineup?
So Coach Pierce had a one necklace policy. So I guess if he fits into that category, you do you, man. You know, all the great teams have some characters. And if a pearl necklace helps you win a World Series, then so be it.
There you go. I feel like that's a big step for you, accepting that a guy can wear a pearl necklace in the lineup. You know, next we got to make sure our ops guys are in full uniform in college baseball and getting that rule passed. And making sure we get that thing happen. But thanks again to Mitch Thompson for joining the 5-Tool podcast episode. What is this? Episode 18, I believe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. Just search 5-Tool Baseball Podcast. Follow us on Podbean. Go to 5tool.org. We've got a podcast page on the drop-down menu bar. You can go find all of the podcasts there with a little description as well. Follow us on Twitter at Dustin L. McComas, at Drew H. Bishop. Follow all the 5-Tool accounts on Twitter. Instagram, we're posting things on there. Facebook, we've got 5-Tool Facebook. We've got our own 5-Tool personal pages that you can follow as well. And 5-Tool even has a TikTok page. So there's a lot of places to find us. We try to make it really, really easy to go discover this. And if you could, it'd be nice to hit a like button, hit a subscribe button. We're getting these things on YouTube as well, trying to build our YouTube page as a destination site as well, if you're into kind of watching these things as well, which I think, you know, you get to see some guys laugh and stuff like that. It kind of adds to the process, but we try to make it really easy for you guys to find our content. So if you can like, subscribe, review, whatever it is, we'd appreciate it.
You can see the decor in my office.
Yeah, you know, that's not to go too long, but like I've always had these visions of having like a really cool office behind me, like because I've got some cool kind of memorabilia type things. Like, man, that'd be great. And it's like we both know, it's like, yeah, we've got like 19-month-old kids. Like it's tough. I feel like you have a much better situation to add things behind you though than I do. I don't know if I'm gonna have to move locations or things like that, but I got some bobbleheads and stuff like that. Like I got a Mike Trout MVP bobblehead over here. I got a Mookie Betts MVP bobblehead and all that stuff. I've got some stuff I could display. What are we getting now? Who is that?
Troy Tulowitzki bobblehead.
Oh, Tulo bobblehead. Nice.
Pretty sure he gave it to me.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, that's bobbleheads are cool, man. That's although I probably shouldn't start collecting them. That's one more thing to spend money on, but yeah, I need to display my bobblehead collection at some point. But yeah, we got to up our office game, especially if people are actually going to tune in and watch us talk, which is probably more difficult than it sounds.
I just got to open these boxes. I got a pretty solid collection of boxes from the move. So someday.
Hopefully you're quicker than we are. We still have boxes when we moved 2 years ago. So it's just kind of how it works when you have kids. But well, that does it for episode 18 of the 5-Tool podcast. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. Until we talk to y'all next time, take care.